Hey friends, so today we are making a pot roast, but we're gonna speed up the process today and do it in the Instant Pot. So what I'm doing right now is I have like a chuck roast. This is a little chuck roast. This thing is only like 1.5 pounds. Hopefully it's gonna feed my family of 5 tonight. But tonight we're gonna have this for dinner. We're gonna rinse the pot roast, the chuck roast a little bit. I don't rinse chicken, but I do rinse my roast, people. I know everybody has different thoughts about that, but I clear out my sink, get everything away, and I rinse that. Especially because I defrosted this, so you know what happens when you defrost the meat. It kind of sits in its own natural juices for a little bit, and we want to get rid of that. And then I just have a little setup over here where it's very important. This step is, you gotta dry this roast off because we're gonna season it and we're gonna sear it before I throw it in the Instant Pot. So, guys, don't skip this step, especially if you're rinsing your meat like I do. Dry it off with paper towel really, really well on both sides to get as much of the water off of it as possible, because the drier it is, the better it's going to sear. So let's start seasoning this. I have some kosher salt, and I'm gonna liberally, generously salt this chuck steak or chuck roast really, really good. It's gonna make all the difference in the world. And it's also gonna give it a really nice crust too when we take it to sear. This is coarse ground black pepper, so for me it's they're little chunkier pieces of pepper, but it's great on this. Definitely this roast can stand up to that. I have some garlic powder that I'm gonna just distribute on here a little bit. And some onion powder. Y'all know I don't like the texture of onions, so I'm just gonna use a little bit of this onion powder. I will put some whole onions in the Instant Pot in a little bit, but they're big enough that I can pick around them, and that's important to me. Guys, you know I love my Saltgrass 7 steak spice seasoning. So I'm gonna do about a tablespoon on the top of this. It's so good. Do your best to try to get it on the sides too. We'll rub all this in a minute. Use about a tablespoon on the top. That seems aggressive, but just listen and trust me. You want as much seasoning on this as you possibly can. And then also, I don't know if I told y'all about this, but this is one of my go-tos also. It's just a barbecue rub and seasoning with coffee and garlic, and it's made by Trader Joe's. It's very inexpensive, and it adds so much flavor. So I'm gonna do about a teaspoon of that on top as well. And now I'll put this bad boy over, and we'll do the other side. So the cast iron is getting really, really hot. I just put a little bit of like vegetable oil, canola oil, whatever you have in there. I know it's ready when it starts to like smoke. So while that's smoking, I'm gonna tell you something you better not forget. And that is to take some type of disinfectant to that sink. If you just wash that raw meat in sinks, get rid of all those nasty germs before you put anything else in your sink. I'll let that sit for a second. You don't want to get people sick. So this cast iron is smoking. I don't know if you can see it, but I can see it and I can feel the heat. Now is the perfect time to take this chuck roast that has been seasoned. Oh, do you hear that sizzle? Lay it down and leave it alone. Don't touch it. The more you let that sit there undisturbed, the better that sear is going to be. I wish you could smell this. This cast iron is doing its good work right now. We're gonna flip it over and give it just a few more minutes on that side. Okay, this is a two-tone job, people, and it's super important, don't skip it. Once you have a nice sear on both sides, turn that roast sideways. And make sure you're rendering any visible fat that you see. That's the part that people don't really want to chew when they get your roast, except some people, which will go unnamed in this video, Monica. Render the fat on the sides of each of these. And that also helps us lock in that flavor as it's cooking. Hey guys, so I have my roast in my Instapot. Days like this where I don't have a whole lot of time to cook it in a slow cooker, the Instapot just saves the meal, it saves the day. So the roast is in here, and to that I am adding 1.5 cups of beef broth. I'm also gonna add some thyme. If you have fresh thyme, that's great too. But I don't have fresh thyme. Chris killed our little thyme plant. So I'm putting about a teaspoon of thyme in there. And I'm also gonna add a few dashes of Worcestershire. I don't know what you call it. That's what I call it. It's fine. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's this right here. Get that. Put that in there. And because I don't like the texture of onions, I just take an onion, I peel it, I cut it in half, and I just lay it right on top. By the time that this gets finished, all that flavor that I want out of the onion will be inside of there without me having to really, I can pick around it. So I'm gonna put my lid on. Again, my roast today is smaller than I normally like. I'm sealing that. Don't forget to seal your Instapot. So for me today, I'm gonna pressure cook it on high, and I'm gonna do mine for about 35 minutes because again, my roast is only about 1.5 pounds. The average roast usually is about 3 pounds or so at the grocery store. So you might wanna do yours for 60 minutes, and then we'll take it from there. Do your thing. So no pot roast is ready to be served without some type of mashed potatoes. So my sous chef, Chris, he peeled and diced some russet potatoes for me. It's just us tonight, so we just did about 2.5 pounds. If I have a few extra people, I do 5, but this recipe itself is just for about 2.5 pounds of potatoes. Once you drain them, I put my stove back on low and I mash them to death to get all the steam out that I possibly can before I start putting in my ingredients that are gonna make these potatoes everything that they are. Okay, so the potatoes are mashed, and now I'm gonna add all the good stuff. I'm gonna add, yes, it's an entire stick of butter, guys. We don't eat mashed potatoes every day of the week with every meal. So we're also gonna add a package of cream cheese. It's gonna be so good. It's gonna bring all the creaminess that we need to that. I'm gonna also put in 1/4 cup of heavy cream and 1/4 cup of half and half. And then we're gonna salt and pepper to taste. Mix all this up, and we're gonna be ready to go. Okay guys, so the timer went off, but then what I let it do was let the natural steam release for like 10 minutes. And then I opened it up and I put about 1 pound of carrots in here. Because I made mashed potatoes, I didn't put any potatoes in here, but if you just want baby potatoes inside, when you put your carrots in there, that's the perfect time also to put your baby potatoes in there. We're gonna close this up, seal it off, and then we're gonna set it for another 10 minutes on high for pressure cooking, and that's gonna do everything it needs to do for those carrots. Let's let that go. So the pot roast dinner with mashed potatoes will not be complete without something green. So I just have 2 cans of green beans. I'm adding about 1 tablespoon of butter. I'm also gonna put a little bit of Lowry's in there. It's got salt in there too, so that's gonna help with that. And then I'm gonna add a little bit of garlic powder and a little bit of coarse black pepper to bring the flavor. And then we're just gonna stir it all together, let it simmer, let it cook down. and it won't be my grandma's green beans because Mama Angel, she had this great garden in her backyard. So she would grow her green beans, she would pick her green beans, and then she would can them in mason jars. And if you were lucky enough for her to send you some in the mail, my God, it was a great meal. But Granny's not with us anymore, but I'm thinking about her today as I make these. Okay guys, so what we have done is we put the carrots in, and if you wanted to add potatoes, we did that earlier as well. We let that pressure cook on high for 10 minutes, and then we let it naturally release the steam for 10 minutes. Then we opened it up. That's where I'm at. I took out the pot roast, I took out the carrots, and now I want to make a gravy with all this goodness that is in the Instant Pot still. So I took equal parts cornstarch and equal parts water, about 2 tablespoons of each. Mix that together in a little bowl. And I'm just going to turn my Instant Pot on saute, and I'm gonna add the slurry that I just made. And I'm gonna mix it together and let it go for a few minutes. This is gonna give us that gravy that we want, the sauce that we want to lay on top of this roast when it's all said and done. It's gonna be the icing on top. So while you pour in your cornstarch and water slurry, it's also a good time to just check the flavor of the gravy. And if it's missing anything based on your taste, now add that in there. So I'm gonna add a little bit more ground pepper, and I'm gonna add a little bit more salt. So while it's
oh my God, babe. This is so good. This is so good, man.
Can I have butter?
you have what, baby?
I have butter.
No, you need to just dip it in the gravy.
I need butter.
It's already got butter on it.